What's up guys, Jake here, and in this video I'm going to be talking to you guys about something that very tragic that recently happened. For those of you who are unaware, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service just recently announced that they would be adding the reticulated pythons as well as the remaining anaconda species to the Lacey Act, and I wanted to talk to you guys about what this means for you and me and what we can do going forward. So for those of you who are unaware, the Lacey Act is basically an act made by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service a very long time ago actually to try and regulate what species are coming in and out of our states to try and protect our native wildlife. So when it's used properly, it's a good piece of legislation to try and protect the wildlife that we have. And but because of pressure from outside groups such as the Humane Society of the United States and PETA, because of that, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has been under a lot of pressure to start adding big constrictors to this list, which is very, very unfortunate because the only large constrictors that we know of that are populating our wildlife are the Burmese pythons in South Florida, and because of that, the rest of the entire country is being punished for it. And it's really just based off of fear that they're banning this. But what does this mean? Everyone's saying ban. What does that mean? Does that mean people are going to come to your house and start taking your snakes? It doesn't mean that, fortunately. I mean fortunately for them, because if somebody came to my house trying to take my animals, they would get them over my dead body. I'm 147 pounds of pure muscle there, but yeah. So basically, what this means is that you are no longer allowed to bring your animal, if it's a Burmese python, reticulated python, any species of anaconda. You're not allowed to bring them across state lines, no matter what. Basically, there's really no exceptions to this. So obviously the main thing that this hits really hard is the breeding industry. Now, when it happened with the yellow anacondas and the Burmese pythons the first time around, and I made a video about this before, it was bad and it was very sad, but it didn't have as much of an impact. And you can see my carpet python, who's fortunately not yet anyway on the Lacey Act, but it really didn't have as much of an impact on the breeding industry because a lot of people, there's not too many people who are currently at the time making a living off of breeding yellow anacondas and Burmese pythons. There's just not that big of a market. But this time around, it's extremely crippling because of how big reticulated pythons are, literally and in this sense. The breeding industry is absolutely huge. If you guys have ever watched Prehistoric Pets, you'll know that that's what they do. That's how they make their living, as well as guys like Bob Clark and others make their living off of breeding reticulated pythons, which is why it's exceptionally sad that this has happened because, like I said, this is a lot of people's livelihoods, and in addition to that, having a huge impact on our hobby in terms of breeding. It also means if you need to move, if you're going to college out of state and you have a Burmese python or reticulated python and anaconda, you can't leave with your animal. It means that if you are fighting in the military and you are serving our country, as my carpet python's trying to escape here, and you get redeployed to a different base, you cannot bring your animal with you. You would take a bullet for our country and you can't bring your pet Burmese python or reticulated python or anaconda with you. And that's completely ridiculous. Like I said, the act was initially made to protect our wildlife, but it's way overstepping its boundaries at this point, and it's just extremely sad because they're picking this hobby apart one by one. The Boas actually made it through this time around. They said they wouldn't ban the Boas like they have done with the other ones, but they also did the same thing to the reticulated pythons the first time they started adding large constrictors. They didn't add the reticulated python the first time, but now this time around, about a year later, they are. And a lot of people are really surprised by this, and I think the reason for that is because of the amendments made to the Lacey Act. They don't need to go through any kind of voting process to do this. They can just say, hey, look, we want to ban reticulated pythons because of these reasons that are not scientifically literate at all. So we're going to do that. And really, they gave everyone about 12 hours notice that they were going to do that, and now they're going ahead with it. As from 30 days from March 6th, this is going to go into effect. So unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be much we can do about it at this moment, but there is something we can do about it in the future. If you guys are unaware, an organization called USARK or USARK, the United States Association of Reptile Keepers, has been going with a lawsuit for quite a while now to file a lawsuit against the original snakes that were put on the Lacey Act, the Burmese pythons, the yellow anacondas, and another species of anacondas that I don't think anybody keeps anyway. But and now they need our help more than ever. As you probably know, anything that has to do with government is going to be really expensive. And filing a lawsuit against a government organization is not cheap. It's a very long process, and it's very expensive, so they definitely need our help. So if you guys could definitely check the link in the description below and go ahead and donate to USARK. But I'd really appreciate it if you guys go ahead and donate to USARK. It really does mean a lot. And a lot of people who don't keep reticulated pythons or other bigger constrictors are saying, you know, why does this matter to me? I don't keep those animals, so thankfully I get to keep mine. And I mean, it is fortunate, I'd say, that the boa constrictors didn't get banned this time around, but what they're trying to do is basically pick us apart one by one. They know they can't take everyone out at the same time, which is what they tried to do with CATX a few years ago, just try and wipe out basically all exotic animals, from reptiles to birds to mammals, all that stuff. So they're trying to pick the industry apart one by one, and we can't let them do that. We have to stand up for each other. Even though I personally don't keep any reticulated pythons or Burmese pythons, I still support other people who do, and their right to do so. But in terms of long-term things we can do, one thing I'm planning on doing more of, because I've done this a few times in the past, is I want to do more educational shows for kids. I think it's really important that we educate, you know, the youngest generation of these animals right now, because we obviously need to expose them of this, or else, you know, if these acts stay in place, they're not going to be able to experience these animals in the future, and it's really sad. It's very unfortunate. But so that's one thing I'm going to be doing myself, is I'm going to be doing more school events, school functions with these animals, to show everyone that they're not, you know, mean animals. They're not, you know, man-eaters. They're really beautiful animals, and they just deserve respect, and, you know, they deserve to be treated as such. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys enjoy my little carpet python. She is an absolute sweetheart. Never would attempt to bite anybody. Just a incredible animal, and it's going to be really sad. It's at some point, you know, the Lacey Act and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service oversteps their boundaries and tries to do something about these carpet pythons, which would be very sad as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I mean, it's not something to be happy about at all. It's very devastating to me personally, and to a lot of other keepers as well. So hopefully you guys will donate to USARK and, you know, support them in their fight to help us keep our reptiles and get them back, because without this, it's going to be crippling to our industry. Just the the reticulated pythons alone are a massive industry in the reptile hobby. So hopefully you guys will do that, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.